Imagine marching through sun-scorched dunes with nothing but dense loaves, jugs of brew and salted fish strapped to camels. This was the reality for Pharaoh's armies in ancient Egypt. Far more than mere survival kits, these carefully proportioned supplies embodied an ancient system of precision logistics, preservation, and nutritional balance. Wheat-based loaves offered sustained energy. Fermented beers delivered hydration, while dried fruits and legumes supplied quick sugars and protein. Every kernel, drop, and scrap generated no waste. Leftover grain fed livestock. Spent mash fertilized fields, and surplus fats lubricated machinery. So today, let's uncover the components, preservation techniques, and administrative systems behind Egyptian military rations, and explore how these time-tested staples could easily be adapted to feed modern explorers in the field. Foundations of the Egyptian ration system. Ancient Egypt operated on a redistribution economy where food rations served as payment for labor and military service. Rations were a core component of royal projects, ranging from pyramid construction to military expeditions, and were distributed both by the central administration and provincial centers. Bread, beer, and grain formed the bedrock of these rations, with meat, oil, and cloth awarded less frequently as status-based extras. Through this system, the state ensured that its workforce and soldiers remained provisioned, reflecting a level of logistical planning unmatched by many later societies. Within this system, Pharaoh's agents issued inscribed wooden tokens specifying daily bread allowances, effectively functioning as food currency. Loaves and jugs of beer were distributed daily, and grain allotments were tracked in papyrus account rolls. Meat, vegetables, and cloth arrived on a monthly or annual schedule as extra rations, reflecting rank and status. So these distribution methods revealed a state capable of feeding tens of thousands of men on long campaigns, even in desert terrains far from the fertile Nile floodplain. Bread. Now, bread formed the bedrock of every Egyptian meal, whether at home, in temples, or on campaign. Typically made from emmer wheat and barley, loaves came in numerous shapes and grades. Standard rations often consisted of 1 or 2 loaves per soldier per day. Archaeological finds of uniform bread molds at Giza's worker settlement demonstrate that each site used standardized loaf sizes, allowing precise rationing without scales. Egyptian bread was leavened when active yeast cultures, often sourced from spent brewery grains, were added to the dough. This beer bread, baked in spherical or conical molds, produced a dense crumb, perfect for a sustained energy release. On campaign, soldiers carried 3 days' worth of dried bread with them, supported by resupply dumps at prearranged waypoints along the route. Beer. Also, beer was far more than a leisure drink. At roughly 2 to 3% alcohol by volume, it provided hydration, calories, and essential B vitamins. Soldiers received daily beer rations, often amounting to 2 to 3 jugs, each about 2 liters, enough to replace 1 meal's worth of calories and fortify them against waterborne diseases. Thick, unfiltered beer was also stored in ceramic jars for weeks without spoiling, thanks to its low pH and alcohol content. Long-distance expeditions, such as Thutmose III's Syro-Palestinian campaigns, relied heavily on portable beer jugs carried atop pack animals. Unlike water, which was rationed to a jug every 3 days in some desert operations, beer was available daily, reducing dysentery and dehydration risks among troops on extended marches. Grains and tokens. Next, the distribution of grain, both as flour for bread and as unprocessed barley or emmer, was meticulously tracked. Wooden tokens inscribed with the number of loaves they represented were issued to soldiers and civilian workers alike for 10-day periods. At major forts, tokens specified daily allotments of up to 2 loaves, each enabling administrators to hand out rations without weighing grain on scales. Monthly grain payments, sometimes reaching dozens of liters per soldier, served as contingencies for times when fresh bread was unavailable. This flexibility allowed commanders to convert grain to bread or issue it directly for cooking at field kitchens. Detailed papyri from the ancient Egyptians record not only grain quantities but also the quality of bread and beer produced, implying rigorous standards maintained by royal inspectors. Vegetables, legumes, and fruits. However, although grain and beer provided most calories, a balanced ration included vegetables and legumes whenever possible. Onions, garlic, and leeks were hardy, stored well, and grew abundantly along the Nile banks. Dried onions and garlic were staples in the soldier's kit, offering antimicrobial and digestive benefits on long marches. Legumes, mainly lentils, chickpeas, and fava beans, contributed plant-based protein and fiber. Bean stews, cooked down to a porridge with oil and garlic, supplemented bread when meat was scarce. These bean porridges were regularly issued in military camps, filling caloric gaps and reducing reliance on animal protein. Figs and dates, prized for sweetness and quick energy, often served as emergency rations. Packed in bundles or jars of syrup, they could be carried without spoiling for weeks. As highly calorie-dense foods, dates were the Army's equivalent of modern energy bars. Portable, nutritious, and morale boosting when supplies ran low. Meat, fish, and poultry. Fresh meat rations were rare on long campaigns but featured prominently in garrison stores and funeral cult distributions. Beef, mutton, and goat were raised in royal estates and could be salted or dried for transport. Pemmican-style preparations, pounded meat mixed with fat and dried in the sun, provided a high-protein, shelf-stable supplement, much like modern military jerky. Fish, especially dried or salted varieties, offered protein to soldiers near riverine forts. Archaeological remains from Hayt el-Ghurab at Giza reveal fish bones alongside bread molds, indicating regular fish distribution at pyramid-building sites whose logistics mirror those of frontier forts in scale and complexity. Also, poultry, ducks, geese, and pigeons were fattened before slaughter and salted for rations. Eggs, once chickens were fully domesticated in the New Kingdom, became a widespread ration, providing complete proteins and essential fats. On campaign, salted and dried poultry, along with eggs preserved in salt or oil, required minimal cooking and reduced spoilage risks. Condiments and extras. Beyond staples, Egyptian rations occasionally included preserved fruits, nuts, and oils to improve palatability and provide micronutrients. Olive and sesame oils, bottled in sealed earthenware, were issued sparingly, but prized for cooking and dressing grain porridges. Meat rations were sometimes seasoned with coriander, cumin, and fenugreek, spices traded from Punt in the Levant, which helped mask the taste of preserved meat and added trace minerals. Other extras included cheese and butter, though these featured mainly in stateside garrison distributions. Bog butter-style techniques existed, churned dairy packed in clay and buried in cool spots to prevent rancidity, possibly derived from desert cooling pits or underground banked storage methods. While such dairy rations were rare on the march, they appeared in temple and tomb accounts as higher status provisions. Hydration and wine. Moreover, water logistics posed a constant challenge for desert-based units. According to the Anastasi Papyri, some expeditions reported obtaining water only every 3 days, leading to meager and unpleasant rations that impacted troop morale and health. To alleviate scarcity, commanders established wells at strategic intervals and used animal skins and pottery flasks to carry water. Wine, though less critical than beer, served ceremonial and morale functions. Sold in clay amphores sealed with resin, wine rations were limited but valued among officers. Wine labels detailed vintage, origin, and quality. Practices that hinted early oenological record keeping, and officers might receive daily wine rations of 4 to 6 cups, sometimes used to flavor honey cakes or desserts in camp kitchens. Preservation techniques. Next, Egyptian military rations depended on robust preservation methods to survive long campaigns across heat and dust. The arid climate already favored natural desiccation for grains and legumes, but additional techniques ensured proteins and perishables remained edible for weeks or months. Preservation techniques included drying. Grain, legumes, fruits, and meats were sun-dried, leveraging low humidity to reduce moisture and microbial growth. Salting. Fish and meat were either dry salted or brined, drawing out moisture or inhibiting spoilage bacteria. Multi-layer salted fish remains from Deir el-Medina confirmed this widespread practice. Smoking. Though wood was scarce, small smoking racks within fortified camps used limited timber to add flavor and preserve it as smoke to meats and fish, extending shelf life with minimal resources. Together, these methods formed a versatile toolkit that commanders and quartermasters used to tailor rations to campaign duration, climate, and available logistics. Nutritional insights. Additionally, ancient Egyptian rations provided a balanced blend of macronutrients and micronutrients that prefigures modern dietary principles. Soldiers received carbohydrates from bread and whole grains, proteins from eggs and fish, fats from preserved meats and oils, while essential vitamins and minerals from fermented beer and dried fruits. Micronutrient delivery via fermented beer and dried fruit sustained health on protracted campaigns. Though they had no access to freeze-drying or synthetic supplements, soldiers thrived on meals tailored to their environment, like fast-digesting carbohydrates fueled immediate energy needs, protein supported tissue repair, and fermented products promoted digestive health. This holistic approach resembles the balanced plate taught in nutrition classes today, showing that food combos can meet physical demands. Also, strategic preservation methods such as drying, salting, and fermentation sustained activity and health without modern technologies. It offers an ancient template for sustainable, nutrient-dense rations today. Clearly, ancient Egyptian dietary models show simple, environment-adapted nutrition strategies informing modern meal planning for extreme conditions. Revival of ancient rations. Now, modern chefs and food historians are rediscovering ancient Egyptian staples and reimagining them as functional rations for today's adventurers, hikers, students, and history enthusiasts alike. Emmer wheat, once the backbone of Egypt's bread economy, is being cultivated on experimental farms and ground into flour for flatbreads that evoke the loaves once exchanged for ration tokens. Barley, another ancient grain, is being used to brew low-alcohol camp beers that are rich in nutrients and history. Dried figs, dates, and salted fish packaged in breathable, eco-friendly wraps are being served as energy bars with millennia-old credentials. By embracing the original preservation methods of drying, salting, and smoking, modern innovators are crafting lightweight, long-lasting meal kits that combine historical authenticity with contemporary practicality. These rations not only satisfy nutritional demands but also connect us to timeless traditions, proving that ancient ingenuity still has a place in today's kitchens and backpacks. Lessons in sustainability. Moreover, in ancient Egypt, military rations reflected an ethos of minimal waste and maximal utility. Grain left over from milling fed animals, while spent mash from beer brewing returned to fields as fertilizer, and animal fat served dual roles in cooking and lubrication. Token-based distributions curbed overissuing and hoarding, while centrally managed granaries facilitated precise inventory control. This amazing model ensured that every byproduct had purpose and none ended up discarded. Today, military logisticians and sustainability advocates can draw lessons from this system. Standardized portions reduce waste, local production strengthens supply resilience, and repurposing inevitable byproducts fosters environmental and economic efficiency. Emulating these principles in modern supply chains can enhance stiffness against distributions and shrink ecological footprints. By adapting the Egyptian approach, integrating production, consumption, and reuse, contemporary operations can move closer to the ingenuity and adaptability that sustained a civilization nourished by the Nile's abundance. Such resilience remains relevant for today's modern global challenges. So the alimentary strategies that fed ancient Egyptian soldiers, like meticulous tokenized rations, standardized breads and beers, modular dried porridge mixes, and portable meat fat bars, strike us today as both ingenious and eminently practical. By studying tokens etched from wood, papyrus ration rolls, and the ruins of fort-break bread ovens, we witness a civilization that treated food as a strategic asset, integral to military success and social cohesion. Recreating these rations offers a portal into history and a blueprint for sustainable, high-energy diets suited to modern adventurers, athletes, and resilience planners. More than mere novelty recipes, these ancient provisions teach us that food security and logistical foresight are timeless challenges, ones that pharaohs addressed with creativity, accountability, and an unwavering focus on feeding their people whenever duty called. Now, what are your thoughts about these military rations from ancient Egypt? Share with us in the comments section below. We'd love to hear them. Also, if you like this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.